Old School Bodybuilding Clothing Company. If it's been 3.5 hours since you last ate protein and now you're starting to freak out, you are old school. If watching someone sit on a hammer machine for 5 minutes between sets playing with their phone pisses you off, you are definitely old school. OSBBC.com for the hardest training athletes.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body, and that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching the Tasty Pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, news, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the tables. We now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, earlier today, you got to speak to the impressive, and I mean impressive, Hunter Labrada. You saw the comments, obviously just won this past weekend, Chicago Pro. Many call him really in the crop of the new generation of bodybuilders, really at that top elite tiers of ambassadors and really one of the future superstars of this sport.
I've interviewed Hunter since, he started this whole thing every time he's won his shows. And it's funny because he pointed out to me, and I forgot that. He had won every show except the Olympia that he did, amateur and pro. And he's got such a level of maturity about him, and you could tell that he's his father's son for sure, because he definitely follows in his dad's footsteps. And I could just tell, when they showed that picture, I think you put it on our Instagram, of Lee standing with his dad like just staring at him while he won the trophy up on stage. You could tell how proud Lee is of him. And you know what? It's great because Lee has got another ambassador for Labrada Nutrition now, and Hunter is kind of like the new guy now on the block. He's the face of the company. They just rebranded with a new line of Labrada Pro Series supplements that they're coming out with. So he's got the business side connected to the bodybuilding side, but you can tell he's really passionate about being the best bodybuilder that he could be. And I think he has every intention on being Mr. Olympia at some point in the future. And you know what? I wouldn't vote against him, or I wouldn't bet against him for all the money in the world, because this guy has got a good head on his shoulders. He's got the tool set. He's actually got a better tool set than his dad had, because he's taller. He's got a bigger frame and a lot more muscle. So if Lee Labrada can play second at the Mr. Olympia, Hunter Labrada can win the Mr. Olympia someday. Will it happen? We won't know. But I think he's got that tough mindset, which is what you need, because you can be great for a couple of years, but it's about longevity in this sport. And because it doesn't take 1 or 2 years to win the Mr. Olympia competition. So I was very impressed with him, as I always am when I interview him. And I think he's getting better and better. And he's made an 8-pound improvement from last year, muscle mass wise. And if he does it again next year, he's going to be very tough to beat.
He's obviously got a very cerebral approach. I mean, he explains the process behind every little thing that he does. Also, very transparent. I mean, he's one of the few bodybuilders that, think about it, almost every other day, he's posting a wide array of progress pictures. So very cool to follow. So if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's live right now on our YouTube channel. Full Q&A. It was a live show, so fans got to ask their questions as well.
Think about this. He's one of the few bodybuilders that's actually a young guy who's competing, who's endorsed, who has a supplement endorsement, but it's really his company, if you think about it. I mean, it's his dad's company, or as he calls his dad, Lee. But let's face it, it's family business. So, I mean, he's working for himself, basically.
Let's go to the questions. The first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, Dave, do you see anything on the horizon that is new or exciting for gear supplements for our community? I think we get to ask this almost once every few months as far as what's new. What do you see on the horizon?
Well, think about it. Think about what this new vaccine, the COVID vaccine, is all about. It's a messenger RNA vaccine, basically, that delivers a genetic sequence to your cells, which then enable your cells to actually express this spike protein, which is then stimulates your immune system. Pretty soon, there's going to be, when there's, if there's the dollar signs are there, there's going to be vaccines, if you want, or you want to call them performance-enhancing injections, where you're going to inject vaccines essentially into yourself that are going to deliver messenger RNA to your cells. They're going to tell your cells, stop producing myostatin. And we know myostatin is a protein that inhibits muscle gains. Once that is perfected, which it probably has, the technology is probably there. Once that's perfected, you're going to see guys growing and girls growing much, much bigger. And I think the genetic manipulation of the genome is the next big thing. Because you know what? I always like these guys, they come out with these different protocols for taking steroids and GH and insulin, as if we had figured this out already. Like there's going to be some new cocktail that no one has come up with. There's nothing new out there right now. Peptides are new to the marketplace, but they're not really replacing steroids and GH because they're just not as potent. But same thing with SARMs. SARMs are much, much weaker. Once we have a tool set that is going to enable bodybuilders to get to that next level of muscular development, that's when we're going to see some amazing things happen. And I think the manipulation of our genome is going to be what's next. I just want to make another point. This was one of the questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. And what that app is, for those of you who don't know, it's you can go to your iTunes store or Android store and you can download this app, and it's basically having Dave Palumbo as your coach on your cell phone in your pocket. So all the articles I've written, all the videos I've ever done, all collected in one place. We put a workout of the week up there. I answer everyone's questions who ask questions on the app, right on the app in a public forum, so everyone sees everyone's answers and questions there. And I also do an exclusive Q&A video for the app every single week. So it's like getting another dose of Ask Dave if you're looking to further educate yourself. And I'm going to tell you something. Those questions are seriously, a lot of them are really, really tough questions in the sense that they're specific, how to do this, how to do that. If you want to take your learning to the next level and constantly keep improving yourself, it's a great app for $29 a month. I mean, you can't beat it. It's like a continuing education thing. And it's a tax write-off. If you're a coach, that's continuing education. You write that off your taxes every single year.
Second question from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. It's about post-contest training. So they want to know how they should train in the first few weeks after a contest. I'll take it a step further. How did you in your career train coming off a contest?
I'll tell you what I did, and I'll tell you what I do now with some of my clients. But when I would finish a show, a lot of people would take 2 weeks off from the gym, a month off from the gym. I was already off for almost a week because I wouldn't train 2 days before the show, and then I wouldn't train the day of the show, and then I'm not training the day after the show usually. So by Monday morning, I'm ready to go back to the gym. And what I would do is I would go back and I would do one body part, but I would only do like 1 or 2 exercises. So let's say I'm going to go back and do chest. I'm going to get under an incline bench press, and I'm going to do maybe 4 or 5 sets, and I'll probably leave the gym. I might do some abs and leave. The next day I may come back and do back. I might do a couple sets of bent rows, 3 sets, and I might do some pull downs, 3 sets, and I leave the gym. But I do a lot of just squeezing, and you'd be shocked. Your body is like in such an anabolic state that all the food you're eating now, because you're going to obviously eat a much greater volume of food, higher protein, higher carbs for sure, probably a lot more fats because you're probably going to eat some dirtier carbs. I was going to McDonald's a lot. I was eating some pancakes, whatever I happen to enjoy eating, French fries. And it's like your body just sucks up all this nutrients. Because think about it, when you're dieting, you're basically starving your body. So your body's in this like mode where it's like looking for anything that it can absorb, but you're not giving it what it wants. So it can't build or it can't store things. It can only mobilize fat from the cells and repair muscle. And that's really what you're doing when you're dieting. Right now, you're not training as much. You're giving your body a tremendous volume of nutrients that it needs. It's going to store things. But because you're eating high protein and you're giving your body a little bit of a stimulus in the gym, even though if you're not lifting heavy, you're stimulating, everything's going to get stored as, quote, muscle. So your body's going to take that protein you're eating and it's going to start building muscle at a much more accelerated rate because your body felt like it wasn't getting enough to do what it needed to do prior to that because you were overtraining so much and you were under eating. And that's why you get this rebound. It has really nothing to do with the drugs. And I think that's a big mistake people make. They pound drugs like for 4 to 6 weeks after a show, or 8 weeks, and they think they're going to get a rebound because of the drugs. You got tons of drugs in your system already. And I've said this the last 3 weeks in a row. It's not the drugs, it's the food. You need to eat, you don't have to eat clean, but you need to eat every 2 hours and give yourself a high amount of protein, because that's what's going to build the muscle. Your body wants to build muscle, so you're going to give it rest, meaning you're not going to train every single day. You might train 4 or 5 days a week. You're going to stimulate the muscle in the gym, but you're not going to overtrain in the gym, and you're not going to do an hour of cardio, so that your body has a lot of recuperation time to build that muscle. Because you don't build muscle in the gym, you build muscle when you're laying in your bed sleeping at night. That's when you repair things. All you have to do job-wise is feed your body what it needs.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, our handle is official_RxMuscle. If you are following us there, you would see that last night, Kai Greene sent Dave Palumbo a couple of videos. We posted both of them on our feed. So, of course, that's going to go far to speculate a possible Kai Greene return.
I really think, Sid, that Kai wants to come back. I do. You know why? Because I don't think he would have reached out to me, because he knows I've been, critical, in the past, but he also knows that I'm very supportive of his career and as him as a person. I've known him since he's 19 years old. We competed at the same shows on the same circuit. I was older than him. I was about 4 or 5 years older than him, but we used to see each other like almost every weekend. And so here's a guy, and then I reported on him. I did that video that's famous, when I went to his house when he was living in the projects. So I know Kai for a very long time. And I think Kai says, you know what? I think Kai is feeling he really wants to compete, that this is a year he can do it. And I think he wanted to get an honest opinion from me. And quite frankly, he contacted me. I didn't contact him at all. He sent me the videos. And then afterwards, I said, look, is this confidential? Should I keep this between us? He says, no, you can share the videos if you want. Now, he wouldn't have allowed me to share the videos had he not really wanted to compete at this point. And he was asking my advice as to how he should go about that, and approaching that. So I do think he wants to compete. Whether he pulls whether he does it or not is another story. Because I think he's still undecided whether he feels he can be ready in 10 weeks. I think he can. He basically hasn't done really much of anything in terms of supplements go. I think once he kicks everything into gear, his body is just going to explode with growth. And I think we're going to see it. I think we could see the best Kai Greene. And you know what? One of the things that a lot of people, and I was always speculating over the last couple of years, I'm like, why wouldn't Kai Greene compete when we had that vacant year where Roden wasn't allowed to compete, and that's when Brandon Curry won. I said that would have been the perfect time for Kai to win. But you know what? Kai's an artist. He wants to have a dramatic, everything is about drama with him and the storyline behind it. And wouldn't it be great? You get Big Ramy finally winning the Mr. Olympia, establishing himself as the new mass monster on the block. And who can knock him out? No one can knock him out, right? But Kai Greene can knock him out. And Kai Greene comes in, and this is the biggest challenge of his career. He's obviously not a young man anymore. But if he were to come in and knock out Big Ramy and win the Olympia, that would be the crowning, I think, jewel in his career, I think. Because it would be a great story, because he wouldn't just have come in and won an empty title. He would have beaten one of the better champions that we've had in a long time. So I think that we might see Kai. This is enough drama and enough dramatic or poetic, whatever you want to call it, content for him, that he can get his mind wrapped around this, and I think motivate himself to be the best that he can be.
The will he or won't he saga that we have seen since 2016 might be coming to its crowning conclusion this year. Keep it locked. We will surely have more on this. But again, if you're watching us for the first time on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Like we mentioned, we had Hunter Labrada on live earlier. So if you're following us, you would have seen the notification. You would have been able to jump on and ask Hunter a question as well. We plan on doing that a lot more with our athlete interviews, and especially now with the Arnold just around the corner. Olympia tweaks after that with the athlete interviews that we're going to be doing. A lot of them we will do in a live format, so you will have the opportunity to partake. Let's start off with Carlos Fit NYC. So Roelly Winkler, of course, after the Chicago Pro announcing that he would be competing at the Tampa Pro. Do you think Roelly can make the needed improvements to try and win at Tampa? I think it is Iain Villiere's show to win.
Well, on heavy, if you watched Heavy Muscle Radio this past week, we were speculating between Chris Aceto and I. Chris thinks that roelly just never added back the size that he had at one time because he had an injury, he took the year off. I don't think that's the case. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that roelly over-dieted for this and over-dehydrated and overdid everything, because that's what happens a lot of times when you're out of the game for over a year. You overdo things. And I think he learned his lesson. I guarantee you on Sunday or Monday after the show, he probably looked like an absolute freak show. And I think what he's going to do is he's going to rein it in. He's going to, get back to what he does best. He's going to rest his body a little bit initially, and I think we're going to see a much better Roelly Winkler in Tampa. How good he is, that's up for grabs. If Chris was right and he did lose and he never gained back that muscle that he had, then we're going to see a pretty much the same Roelly Winkler. If, however, I was right and he's just overdid it, we might see a freaky, crazy Roelly Winkler. And that's what the exciting thing is, because we really don't know what we're going to see. And it's going to make Tampa that much better, because Roelly wasn't intending on doing Tampa. Now we have another element to that show, where we're going to see, another superstar in that lineup. I agree with you, though. I think Iain Villaire has got to be one of the guys to beat, although there's other people in this lineup that have to be feared as well. But Roelly at his best, I don't know if anyone could beat him in the lineup. Will we see him at his best? Flip a coin, I don't know.
Let's do another athlete what-if questions from Josh K. Where do you think that Seth Feroce would have placed at the Olympia at his all-time best?
I'm assuming they mean at the 212 Olympia, because he was a 212 guy. I think he could have won it at his best. He was really good. I mean, people don't remember. I mean, he won his first pro show. I mean, the guy was a freak. I mean, he's got freaky, crazy conditioning. He has a nice shape. He's got a lot of mass on his frame. I think he would have done really well. But, different times, different days. You can't. It's hard to compare someone from what they looked like 10 years ago to what they would look like, now, unless you actually see the guy. It's like saying, Lee Priest is going to make a comeback next year. Will Lee Priest be the Lee Priest from 10 years ago? I doubt it. Will we see a great Lee Priest? I think we will, because I don't think Lee will get on stage if he's anything less than his best. So. But what will he look like? We have to wait and see.
Let's go to Excellent 187. Dave, can you explain the exact science behind carb cycling, specifically on high carb days? Is it best to have it the day off or the day before you train a lagging body part?
If you think of carbohydrate intake, especially when you're dieting, and as gasoline in your car, you have a tank in your car, right, that holds so much gasoline, okay? In your body, you have glycogen stores in your liver and in your muscles that hold stored glucose, basically carbohydrates. And the idea behind carb cycling is that some days you're going to give lower carb intake so that the glycogen stores deplete themselves down. And when the glycogen stores deplete themselves down, your body has to dig into stored body fat and mobilize more fat. But when the glycogen stores get filled up, it seems like it stimulates your metabolic rate a little bit, because your insulin levels are higher, and that stimulates thyroid hormone, the inactive thyroid hormone T4, to convert more to T3, which raises metabolic rate. That's why when you eat a big carb meal, you're sweating and everything like that, because it's raising your metabolism. So the idea is some days you go low so that you're mobilizing and burning fat, and then on the other days, maybe 3 or 4, 1 or 2 days a week, you go higher, so you refill those glycogen stores up, stimulate the metabolic rate indirectly now, even though you might not be mobilizing fat in those days, but you might be, just because you're getting an indirect effect from your metabolism raising up. If you were to continue eating high carbs, you would overspill the glycogen stores, just like you can if you fill too much gas into the gas tank of your car. And then but with your body, rather than the stuff spilling onto the ground, if you overfill the glycogen stores, now you start storing body fat, and that's what we don't want to do. So that's why you always want to keep the glycogen stores a little underfilled. When they get too low, you give a little carb load. And I do that with guys now. If guys get too flat, because I have them on low carbs for too many days, I feed them, and then once they fill up and I know the glycogen stores are full, now I can deplete them down again. And that you do that seesaw, that's what carb cycling is, so that you get that effect. Now you can also do it in a more extreme way, where you keep carbs low and you stay on a ketogenic diet. So when you're on a low carb diet all the time, glycogen stores are really empty. You're burning maximum fat, because now your body has no fuel. and your brain is in ketosis, meaning that it's using fat as a fuel source rather than carbs, so your brain feels good. The only negative to that is that your metabolism can slow down a little bit, and that's why you do a cheat meal once a week. So there's different strategy, and the cheat meal would basically be like a high carb day, you know. So in essence, you even on a ketogenic diet, you're still carb cycling. You're just only carb cycling 1 day a week usually. So there's different various ways of doing it, and it really depends on the person, how much weight they need to lose, how much body fat they need to lose, and what kind of metabolism they have. And that's what you have to ascertain as a coach when you decide what kind of a diet you're going to put a person on.
From Shadi Al Zamouni had a very long question. I'm just going to ask the top part of it. I mean, he wants to know why bodybuilding is not at the Olympics. I'll add to that. Do you think bodybuilding has a shot? Has there ever really been much of an effort to get bodybuilding in the Olympics?
Ben Weider, that was his quest in life, to put every show we ever saw him talk at the Arnold and the Olympia every year, it was the Olympics and this guy I'm talking to, the president, and we're getting us in the Asian Games. And here's the problem with bodybuilding. Everyone thinks it's a drug-related thing. It's really not, because they could do the same random drug tests they do with every sport. I mean, and I'm sure there'd be athletes that can beat the test and will pass the test. And I'm sure there are natural athletes that will be able to compete and beat the test because they don't take any drugs. But here's the problem. It's how do you quantify bodybuilding? There's no specific poses and scores. All right, you hit this pose right, you get this many points. Like you do it, like say in gymnastics or in ice skating and stuff like that. They haven't quantified bodybuilding so you can score it. Even the posing round is not scored, which is the one thing that you can actually quantify. They haven't done that. And until they do that, and they probably won't, because I don't think anyone cares that it's not in the Olympics, you'll never see bodybuilding in the Olympics. I think you have a better chance of getting the fitness division into the Olympics before you would bodybuilding, because at least fitness, you can score the routine. If you and once again, they don't even have they used to have a quantifiable scoring system. If they made one, you'd be much more likely to get that one in first. But I don't think that the organization has any desire to put it in the Olympics, because once you get it under the auspices of the IOC, the Olympic Committee, testing committee, now they're going to want to drug test, they're going to want to randomly drug test, and I don't think our bodybuilding organization wants any part of that, and I don't blame them. It's not worth it. It's not worth opening that can of worms.
Let me see if we were getting, as we usually do, a few keto-related questions. Let's go to Live for Pump. I'm hearing more about collagen lately. Do you recommend using it? And if so, what should I look for specifically before purchasing?
You know, collagen protein has been around since, the 70s. I mean, that was the first protein they ever sold, liquid collagen protein. And, it was cheap. They would, they get it from I don't even know where they dissolve the collagen from, bones and cartilage of animals. It's probably the waste stuff they throw out from the butcher shops. And it would be like a syrup almost, this thick syrup. And I remember that's how the Bleckman family first started their business with Twin Lab. They were a liquid collagen protein. And it was a big diet thing a big craze back in the day. People would just drink this collagen protein all day long. And I remember when I was in high school, the kids would bring in the little things of collagen protein. And it was taste disgusting. It was like super sweet. And you just swig it down. Oh, you're going to build muscle from this. And then they realized that collagen protein really is not a great source of protein. It's not that high in branched chain amino acids. A better source would be, whey protein, egg protein, casein. And so collagen kind of got basically put on the sideline, so to speak. Then when whey protein prices went through the roof, people were looking for cheaper alternatives, and they went to collagen, hey, collagen's good for your joints, it's this and that and that, So do I think it's worth using collagen protein? No. I think the best bang for your buck, okay, if you want to get a good quality supplement, good quality protein supplement that actually is probably almost better than food as far as the biological availability of it and your body's ability to absorb it, you got to go with a pure whey isolate, 100% whey isolate. Because whey isolates have no lactose in them, assuming you're using a good quality one. And they get assimilated really quickly and effectively, especially post-workout. So if you're going to use a protein supplement, that's what I would recommend you using. When you start getting into the cheaper casein and collagen proteins and even some of the plant proteins, you get what you pay for pretty much. You're going to pay less money, but you're not going to get a product that's going to be as effective.
Let's go to Taylor Vation. Dumbbell versus cable side laterals for side delts.
I love cable side laterals because I think that I love the continuous tension aspect of it. And I do side laterals, and I have a cable machine in my house, and I don't even go heavy. You don't have to go heavy. I mean, as long as you're squeezing and you're getting the contraction on the way up and on the way down, I like it. The problem is you can't really go that heavy on it, and because it's a very tough movement to do. Dumbbells, you can kind of cheat a little bit more and get them up a little bit. So when I was competing, I would do a little bit of dumbbell work. I'd do some cable work. But what I really like for building side delts is the side delt machine. If you've ever sat in any of those machines where you put the pad on your elbow and you kind of just bring them out to the side, I do one arm at a time. I kind of hold on to the machine and I do one arm at a time. And I feel like that is because you can push from your elbow, because the thing's sitting on your elbow. You don't even have to hold on. And it's all side lateral. There's no way to cheat. You can't really, use momentum. That to me built my delts better than any other exercise I did for shoulders, including behind the neck presses, which I was doing 315 for. I think it's a very isolating, great movement.
We'll take another keto-related questions from Ivan Bodybuilding. When doing a keto diet, what % of the fat should come from saturated fats? Is there a difference for an enhanced male or female and for natural male or female?
I think the majority of fat should come from monounsaturated fats like extra virgin olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil. To me, avocado oil tastes terrible. Extra virgin olive oil, unfortunately, in this country, a lot of it is fake. It's just soybean oil, or it's watered down with soybean oil. Plus, you can't really cook with extra virgin olive oil because it burns. That's why I came out with my own macadamia nut oil. It was very hard to find macadamia nut oil. It wasn't available readily in this country. There's only 1 or 2 brands that make it. It was expensive. So I decided, I put my mind to it, and I went out there and I sourced it from South Africa, and I sell a ton of macadamia nut oil on speciesnutrition.com, and I like it because it burns very, very well. Matter of fact, it stimulates your metabolism. So I'd say probably 60% of your fat calories should come from monounsaturated fats. Now, you can eat avocados too. You don't have to take it in an oil form, but I'm just saying mac oil is a very easy way to get a lot of that in. I think 20% probably should come from saturated fats, because after all, you do need saturated fats in all the cell membranes of all the cells in your body. So if you break down muscle tissue, you're repairing mostly protein, which is the internal components of the cell, but the outer components are comprised of essential fats and saturated fats. So you want to take in some saturated fats. I get most of my saturated fats nowadays from egg yolks. Other people like red meat, and I used to use a lot of red meat. I ate McDonald's every day. So you can do it from that as well. 20%, the other 20% of your fat should come from what we call polyunsaturated fats, or the essential fatty acids. That's your omega-3s and omega-6s. You could take, and it's just, you probably can get away with almost 10%, but what I do is, of that 20%, probably half of that is taken in supplement form. So I have a product called Omega-Lyze. It has fish oil in it, evening primrose oil in it. You should get about 3 grams of each per day. And that's something you probably, if you do that, you can check that box of, hey, I got my essential fats in. I also eat omega-3 eggs. I eat salmon, wild salmon. So I'm getting a lot more. The rest of my polyunsaturated fat intake is coming from the foods that I'm eating. And if you do that, and then of course the other omega-6 arachidonic acid is found in chicken and beef. So you're getting that. So you could eat the saturated fat. You could eat some of the polyunsaturated fats, and you can certainly eat the monounsaturated fats, but the one thing that you should supplement with is, because of the fact that it's hard sometimes to get the right amounts from food, would be your essential fats, omega-3s and 6s, in which case you should take a product like my Omega-Lyze or something else that's comparable to that.
Official Lee Priest wants to know, can I send you a video of me breakdancing so you can advise me if I should go to the Olympia or just open a fruit stand?
I don't know. I'm not Simon Cowell, that's for sure. I can give you my opinion on your breakdancing skills, but you would probably want a more experienced breakdance. Who used to breakdance? There was a guy who used to breakdance. I know a lot of the fitness competitors used to breakdance on stage during their routines, but I don't remember. There was a bodybuilder who did it too. I can't remember.
Was it Victor Richards?
What?
Was it Victor Richards?
No, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. But I bet Kai Greene can breakdance. I would recommend sending you a video to Kai Greene. Let him critique it.
or just recreate that video and then we'll post that.
There you go. That's right.
I like that. Time for a couple of more questions. Let's go to Asha's kidney journey. I'm a kidney transplant recipient on immunosuppressant and BP meds as well as prednisone. Please, could you explain how this may affect my muscle building and weight loss, please? I can build muscle relatively well, but fat loss is the issue. Any tips on how to improve this given his condition and what he's taking?
Yeah. Prednisone obviously is a catabolic hormone, so it works the opposite of anabolic steroids. So if you're taking something anabolic, at the same time you're taking prednisone, you can kind of override that effect. The problem is that prednisone basically tells your liver to produce glucose from amino acids. It's gluconeogenic. And what that does by raising blood sugar, it causes your body to release more insulin, to have to absorb the sugar. So you have a high insulin output and a high sugar content in your blood, which makes it difficult to lose weight. That's why prednisone makes you fat, okay? We all know that. So you're trying to combat that effect. What I would do is I would keep my carbohydrate intake very low if I'm having to take prednisone, because prednisone is already raising blood sugar. You don't need any more in the blood. And I would eat a high protein, moderate fat approach, and I think you'll get a better results that way, because as soon as you start putting carbs in there, you're having a situation where you're overproducing tons of insulin, and it makes it very difficult hormonally to lose weight. Prednisone alone, what do you think? The first thing you see someone on prednisone, they get a big moon face, right? Hopefully at some point they could wean you off the prednisone and just keep you on the other immunosuppressants. And that's usually what happens at some point. I don't know how long it's been since your transplant, but usually after the first year, they try to get you off the prednisone if they feel that your body is not going to reject the kidney.
Time for one more question from Tubby Geo. If you had access to all pharma PEDs, what would you suggest for a mass cycle dose, taking into account diet, calories are upped, and training is on point?
Yeah, I was getting pharmacy drugs when I was competing in the 90s, and for me 1,000 milligrams of testosterone worked really well with literally we were using 300 to 400 milligrams of equipoise a week, or 400 to 500 milligrams of Decker a week, 76 milligrams of trenbolone, which was called Parabolin back then, 2 or 3 times a week. And we were building lots of muscle. I was using 3 to 4 IUs maximum of GH per week, but it was all pharmacy, grade stuff. And it worked. And I think a lot of the problems today is that there's 2 problems. One problem is that people think they need a ridiculous amount of drugs to be huge. The other problem is that the drugs are not dosed properly, or they're not the actual drugs that people think they're taking. And that's why the Roy test kits I sell on my DavePalumbo.com website sell so well, because people are always testing their products. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff out there is either nothing or it's cheaper ingredients. In other words, people think they're using trenbolone, or they think they're using Decker, and they're actually using test-propionate. They think they're using Anavar, they're using Dianabol. It's a hodgepodge of mishmash out there. But if you can get pharmacy grade stuff and your gear is good, you don't need quite as much as people think.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder right now on the channel, live interview with Hunter Labrada, live as in we took questions from the live users. We plan on doing a lot more of this. So again, if you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. Obviously that helps. And as always, we thank you for your support. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.